Hi everyone. So in this video, we're going to get started with the Aria Hub free tier, and we're going to connect our public cloud account AWS with it as well. So I'm going to take you through all the technical steps for that. So let's jump straight in. First off, we start off with our welcome introduction email once you've signed up to the Aria Free Hub trial website. Two things to note on there, you are actually going to get two links. Step one, that's going to create your VMware Cloud Services organization. And then for step two, we are going to create the public cloud configuration security feature, which is Aria automation for secure clouds in the background. It's going to be a free part. It's part of Aria Hub baked in, but you're not going to have access to that out of the box. So make sure you've clicked on both those links to activate both products. And then for step three, what you will see there is once the product's been activated, you'll be able to access the tile for Aria Hub as well in your cloud service organization. There's also a PDF attached to the email as well, which takes you through all of those setup steps. So you'll get that into your inbox. Okay, moving on, we are now in the Aria Hub environment. We can see that I've got access to my free trial here. And we're going to click to connect my first data source. As you can see, it loads there. As part of the free edition, we get access to two public cloud accounts, and that spend has to be under $100,000 per month. And we can connect at the moment the Microsoft Azure public cloud or Amazon Web Services public cloud. And we're going to click obviously on that Amazon Web Services. I think it's a bit obvious, but we're going to start off by giving that account a name. We're then going to provide our public AWS account ID. The account type is going to stay as commercial. And then if we click next, we then need to click through the link to create the specific IAM role for AWS for VMware Aria. And when we do that, if we're already logged into the AWS console, it's going to take us straight through into the IAM management console to create that for us. I recommend that we leave the external ID as VMware Aria. And then the next step is under the permissions, is to search for the security audit permission and attach it to this new role that we're creating as well. Click next. You can add tags if you want. I'm going to skip straight ahead and I'm going to create the role. I'm going to leave the role name as the default out of the box. And I'm going to exit out of that just because I've already done this earlier in the daytime as well. And I'm going to search for we need to get hold of the IAM role ARN, so we're going to search for that role that we've just created to get hold of that. So what you can see here now is I've moved to the IAM component of AWS console, and I've clicked on roles under access management on the left hand side. I type in Aria there, you can see it's VMware Aria Hub. And then we can see that ARN in the center of the console as well. So let's copy that across. Again, we didn't change that external ID, but if you did, then you need to update it here. And then you need to click to save the data source and continue. Now, the next component is setting up the event monitoring. So this actually comes from the Aria Automation for Secure Hosts configuration, also known as Cloud Health Secure State in the past. And that basically gives us a way to bring in live data from your AWS account into VMware Aria Hub as well, and also that security information. So you're going to need to ensure that CloudTrail is enabled. So if I go to my AWS account and I type in CloudTrail to find that service, we're actually going to find in my environment that it is already enabled as part of a managed service as well. So I've already got some CloudTrails coming in there. If not, you will have to activate it. On your machine, you're going to need to have the AWS command line interface installed and also set up access keys and secret keys so you can use that CLI tool as well. And that's because we need to run a script and point it to your account that we've just created as well to configure a number of items in the background. So it's going to create a crawl formation stack with some event rules, SNS topics, and give CloudWatch and Cost Explorer related permissions to the IAM role that we created for Aria Hub. And we do that by running the bash command, run the script name, and then give it your AWS account number, and then the Aria role name that we created as well. So we'll get that Aria role name very quickly. so that I can copy and paste it. So we've got the VMware Aria Hubs, that's the role name that I was talking about. So we're going to need that in a moment once we've downloaded and accessed that script. So I've already downloaded the script in my environment, and I've also run chmod plus and x on that to make it executable. And then we can see that this is now running through my account, and it will output some informational components and information for you to let you know what's going on and if it is working as well. And obviously, if you find it's not working, then you may have to get in touch with VMware to do a little bit of troubleshooting there for you. If we go back to my AWS console, we can go to CloudFormation and we can see that that CloudFormation stack's there. It mentions Cloud Carrera, which is the original product that VMware purchased. That became Secure State and then Aria Automation for Secure Clouds. We can also see a number of events running, so we can see that's going to take a couple of minutes to go through. I think in my environment, I think it took around 15 minutes or so to run in total. But for the purpose of this demo, now we can see that the script's fully run. We're actually going to wait for that to appear in our environment now. Okay, back on my Aria environment, I'm going to click Finish because I've run that script. We're going to see that my AWS account has been created there, but it has got a warning which is basically saying the event stream isn't set up. And part of that will be because in the background there, my CloudFormation is still running, so it's not fully completed. And we can see that by just quickly going back to that at the moment. And I can refresh that and we'll see there's some more progress moving on there, but not all of the, some of the events are still in progress today as well.
Okay, so now that we have our working CloudFormation stack, we can see here that it's completed. We've got our resources created in our environment. If we go back to our Aria Hub platform, and we open up our account, we can now see that it shows us okay, it shows connected, and even it's discovered that I do have an EKS cluster running there as well. So if I have a look at the home screen, now I start to populate with data. So I can see I've got that one data source there, which is my AWS account. We can see the resources that have been added on a daily amount, and we can kind of hover over that to see as instances and so forth kind of being added there. I can see security information, so that's coming from the Aria Automation for Secure Cloud, so Secure Host environment, also known as Secure State. Got some costing information coming in there, so obviously again I've not had this running long enough to kind of get all of the data into this platform so far. If we click through, we can actually start to dive into this information as well. So for example, if I dive into VMware Aria Cost, at the moment that's going to take you to a demo environment to show you kind of how the Aria Cost platform or Cloud Health platform works. So as you can see here, this is kind of demo data at the moment, but the pull through here is actually the AWS cost that it sees in your account at the moment. And in the future, as one of the feature upgrades, you will actually see more information when you click through from Aria costs, like a freemium type version, to dive into some of those as well. But I can see some of my bills here in the background that data's been pulled in. I can also look at resources by region as well. So I've got this set to just my Ohio region at the moment. I can look at North Virginia and so forth. And then I can actually have it search and view my inventory just for those regions as well. On the right hand side, just at the top, we can see applications. So one of the great things about Aria Hub is it will give you a way to it will auto discover applications in your environment. So for example, in AWS, can look to see if certain instances sit behind load balancing services, for example, because you know, if that's the case, it can be part of an application. Alternatively, you can create and model your own application as well, which we'll look at shortly. You can add in Kubernetes environments, so you actually deploy a collector into the Kubernetes environment, and that gives us insight into things like the pods and the services and config maps as well, and that's a fantastic feature that we'll look at in the future. And then you can run queries on your data as well. And then of course, because it's an API first solution, you can get programmatic access and actually get all the information I'm going to show you here in the UI via the API as well. So if we go into our inventory view, first and foremost, I can select by services, by regions that I'm interested in, for example, as well. So if I, my AWS, I could maybe look at my EC2 instances, and service that I deployed. It's going to find everything that's available, and then maybe as well I can put that down and just look at EC2 and let's maybe do an EKS cluster in there. So we can see I've got a lot of things that are deployed that are part of EC2, and as we can see there's EC2 elastic IPs being added, the actual instance themselves, there's the key pairs and so forth. Now I click here, it's going to show me all of those instances, and it starts to build up this really nice query inventory map as well, showing me how things are related to one another, and it also builds that query up front for me as well. And we can see some of the previous searches that I'm going to talk you through in a moment. I can open up and see if there's any findings from that secure state side of the house, the cost information. I can also look at metrics and chart them out. One of the future updates of that will actually give you the ability to select which metrics are shown. I can see if there's any properties for these virtual machines. I can see the raw name of it, which is the instance name. I can see all of the EC2 information that's being passed through, and then I can see if there's any tags for that virtual machine being brought in as well. So obviously that friendly name that we see in the AWS console is actually a tag. The actual true name is of course the instance name. If I just go back to the search and explore, we can see we've got a number of sample queries that we could run here. So we could look for anything running in EC2 that's got a public IP address. So here we're looking for a property name of public IP address, which only exists when a public IP address has been attached. We can do some aggregation searches. So we can look for all EC2 instances and count which regions that they are against. We can do just global text search, so we could look for IP addresses or anything that we're looking for in our environment. You can see here nothing exists with the word something, but if I look here for veducate.co.uk, my blog, we can see anything that's been created there. So we can see an instance, and this instance here is because we've got a tag added as well. And then we can do relationship searches, so we can see for any EC2 instance that's in the state of running but has a relationship to a security group, and that security group has these rules in place. Well, so you can build really complex queries from that point of view. And you can also learn more, so there is a documentation page which will give you more information about this as well. So just have a quick look at that. You can see here it's going to show you how to find a property with a particular value. So you can do the property name and then the value. So again, if we look at this, we're going to do blog. So it would be property name. So we'll find or does not have a value. So if we go back to my research results here, we can look for these properties, and we could maybe do. Let's have a look. So that was initializing when I first looked at it, so we could do private IP address equals this IP address, and again it's just going to bring that one back instance. Obviously we're already looking at it, so it kind of makes that kind of really simple. There's a demo to show. We can use those operators to show us in those sample queries as well. One of the things that I was really interested in was find out how do we look at tags. So for example, I can look at everything that has a particular tag name. So I could do tag is blog, so that it exists. And again, we're going to see one of those instances coming through. We can see that here as well. We can also then do tag value exists. So we could do, there are tags where the information, again, is my blog post name. Again, we're just going to get that single instance through. And you've got a number of other queries in here as well, and you can do comparison operators with time functions, for example, and you've got a number of obviously other examples. You can do wildcarding and so forth. It's kind of really powerful from that point of view to pull that inventory data across. So the next area to kind of dive into would be around the application modeler. So you've got those potential applications. So these applications are maybe ones that are sat behind load balancers, for example. So I know here it's showing me some connected resources, and that's because I've got some external load balancer that's open. This is actually the load balancer name in my AWS environment itself. And actually that's because it's showing up because it's part of an EKS cluster. But also one of the things that I can do is I can create my own applications. So I can add this, and we'll call this bookstore, because I actually deployed one of the demo AWS applications into my environment before before doing this. And we can see here we can start to add resources. We've got the overarching name of Bookstore, which is our application, and we can add resources into here. So one of the things that I want to do straight away is I want to add a new group, and we might call this DB, and then we're going to add our database resources in here as well. And then if I click into that, if we click that ring, it takes me to the database instance itself. And then we can start to see resources not in this application, and then we want to start filtering. Now, one of the nuances that I saw here when I was doing this in testing is sometimes that list doesn't load up straight away. Now, this could actually be a browser problem with Firefox, but if I just we can now see here I can filter by cloud providers, and then what I'm actually looking for here is I know I've got some DynamoDB tables deployed, so I'm going to select all of these and I want to add it into my group here. So now we can see that this application resource has been added in, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that, and I'm going to come back out of here, and now I've got my application, which is called Bookstore. When I click into that, I can see all of the tables that are available as well, and I can now start to see any connected resources and double click into those as well. It's kind of a really basic function at the moment. You're going to see more of that kind of being built together in the future in terms of features and different things that you can do. One of the areas that I kind of want to see a little bit more of was around this resources. So I know, for example, that I've got some API gateways that are created as well, but the API gateways don't exist in this list. So actually, if you're using the programmatic function, you can add in every available type of object that is monitored by Aria Hub into these application modelers as well. It's just as a curated list through the UI at the moment, and then they'll be added, more of those will be added in the future as well. If we move down into the environment, let's go to findings as well. So you can see here I've got a number of findings, and a lot of these are around my EBS volumes by default that are attached to my EC2 instance and not encrypted, and this then this goes against the CIS benchmark as well. We can see that this is powered by that VMware Aria automation for secure clouds, and then if I open that up, I can see exactly where that is. I can see this resource in the Explorer view, which means I'll then be able to see those related resources, so exactly which EC2 instance that's added to. We can see, for example, the tags that are added there, which region it's deployed into, the severity. And then at the moment, I don't have the ability to suppress or remediate these problems because obviously I'm using the freemium edition of the Aria Hub product, and therefore the associated Aria Automation Secure Cloud. But then if you want to upgrade your subscription and pay for that product, then you're going to get those additional capabilities made available to you as well. And that's it. We kind of finished with our high-level overview of Aria Hub getting connected to AWS, and then kind of looking around that interface, all that data that we can see as well. For me, really, that kind of power is that search and explore, and being able to kind of see that relationship instance as well of how all that comes together. So we're just going to do that one last time with my blog post. I can see here I've got my EC2 instance, and I can see straight away security groups, VPCs, key pairs, and so forth. And the other great thing then is it's also going to start to tell me more information from a security point of view about those instances, and if I start to expose it to the internet, or maybe I've shared some data into a S3 bucket that I shouldn't have done, for example, and that kind of will affect other instances that are using that S3 bucket as well. And in the future, we can kind of dive into maybe how we get that extra data out of our Kubernetes environments, that EKS cluster that I've deployed as well. So thank you very much for joining me.